The Ritz-Carlton's private dining room sparkled with expensive decorations for Dad's 60th birthday celebration. Crystal champagne flutes clinked as Vancouver's elite gathered to celebrate Robert Morrison, the self-made real estate mogul. If only they knew what real success looked like. Sophie dear. Mom's voice carried that artificial sweetness she reserved for public disappointment. You actually came. And you're wearing that. I glanced down at my simple black dress, Chanel's latest, worth more than Mom's entire outfit, not that she'd recognize it. To her, if it wasn't flashy, it wasn't expensive. Still running that tiny shop? My sister Victoria smirked, adjusting her ostentatious diamond necklace. What was it again? Some online thing. E-commerce, I replied simply, accepting a champagne flute. The champagne ironically came from my own vineyard in France, but they didn't need to know that yet. Right? Victoria laughed, turning to her husband, a junior partner at Dad's firm. Sophie's playing shopkeeper while we're closing million-dollar deals. Dad joined us, his new Rolex glinting under the chandelier lights. Now Victoria, be nice. I'm sure Sophie's business is doing fine. Though, he turned to me, that position at Morrison Real Estate is still open, sweetheart. Time to stop playing around with this internet shop nonsense. I took a slow sip of champagne, hiding my smile. If they only knew that internet shop had processed more transactions in the past hour than his real estate firm handled in a year. How's that little website of yours doing? Victoria pressed. Making enough to pay rent? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. The caller ID read CFO office. Excuse me, I said, stepping away. I need to take this. Probably her landlord, Victoria stage whispered, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. She's always late on rent. If she only knew that I owned the building she lived in, along with half of downtown Vancouver. Ms. Morrison, my CFO's voice was urgent. The Asian market just closed. The merger with Singapore's largest e-commerce platform is ready for your final approval. $2 billion as negotiated. I glanced at Dad, still showing off his new watch to his golf buddies. That watch cost him $50,000, a sum he'd bragged about all evening. My company made that much every 3 minutes. Process it, I replied quietly. And prepare the press release for tomorrow. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and the acquisition of Morrison Tower is complete. Would you like us to change the signage tonight or wait until morning? I smiled, watching Dad regale his guests with stories of building his empire. Tonight. During the party. Hanging up, I returned to find Victoria still holding court, detailing her latest real estate triumph, a measly $5 million deal she'd been bragging about for weeks. What about you, Sophie? She asked mockingly. Sell any trinkets on your little website today? Just then everyone's phones buzzed simultaneously. Breaking news alerts. Dad, still holding his birthday cake for the photo op, glanced at his phone. His face went pale. Global e-commerce giant Nova Enterprises acquires Asian market leader in $2 billion deal, he read aloud. Theo Sophie Morrison. The cake slipped from his hands, landing with a spectacular splash on his expensive Italian shoes. Victoria's champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. That's impossible, she stammered. You run a small online shop. No, I corrected her gently. I run Nova Enterprises. The small shop was just our first website. We now operate the largest e-commerce platform in the Western Hemisphere. Mom's perfectly applied makeup couldn't hide her shock. But you work from that tiny office. You mean my company's global headquarters? I smiled. The entire Morrison Tower? The one Dad's so proud of having his office in. As if on cue, the dining room's floor-to-ceiling windows offered a perfect view as workers began replacing the building's sign. Morrison Real Estate was being taken down letter by letter. What's happening to my building? Dad's voice cracked. Pie building, I corrected. Nova Enterprises acquired it this afternoon. Along with every other property in your portfolio. The room fell silent as Nova Enterprises' global headquarters lit up against the night sky, my company's logo glowing where Dad's name had been for 20 years. But this was just the beginning. They hadn't even seen my real empire yet. The silence in the Ritz-Carlton's dining room was shattered by the sound of multiple phones buzzing, news alerts flooding in as global markets reacted to Nova's latest acquisition. Sophie, Dad's voice trembled, his shoes still covered in birthday cake. What have you done? Before I could answer, my CFO walked in, followed by a team of executives. Ms. Morrison, sorry to interrupt, but we need your signature on the NASDAQ paperwork. We're going public tomorrow morning. Victoria choked on her fresh champagne. Going public? Yes, I replied calmly, taking the tablet to sign the documents. Initial valuation is set at $487 billion. Should hit $1 trillion by end of trading tomorrow. Mom grabbed the nearest chair for support. Trillion? But you said you ran an online store. I do, I smiled. Several thousand of them actually. Nova Enterprises processes 67% of global e-commerce transactions. That tiny shop you mocked? It's now bigger than Amazon and Alibaba combined. The dining room screens meant to show Dad's birthday tribute suddenly switched to live market feeds. Nova's pre-IPO trading was making headlines worldwide. Ms. Morrison, another executive, approached. The White House is on line 1. The president wants to discuss the Asian market implications. Dad's face went from pale to ashen. His daughter, the one he'd dismissed as a small-time shopkeeper, was casually fielding calls from the president. Tell her I'll call back in 5 minutes, I said, then turned to my sister. Victoria, remember last month when you laughed at my little website during the family dinner? Want to guess how much revenue that site generated while you were mocking it? My CFO helpfully projected the numbers onto the dining room wall. Victoria's recent $5 million real estate deal suddenly looked like pocket change. That's more than Dad's company makes in a year, she whispered. In a decade, I corrected. And speaking of Dad's company, I nodded to my team, who distributed tablets to every guest. You're all witnessing a historic moment. Morrison Real Estate isn't just becoming part of Nova Enterprises. It's becoming a footnote in what Forbes is calling the largest corporate acquisition in history. The screens displayed my growing empire: e-commerce platforms, tech companies, real estate holdings, financial institutions, all under the Nova umbrella. Your office, Dad? I continued, watching his face. The one you're so proud of? I had it cleared out an hour ago. The entire floor is becoming Nova's AI research division. Cleared out. He stumbled backwards. But my files, my awards. In storage, my CFO interjected. Along with the company's outdated systems. We're digitizing everything. Welcome to the 21st century. Just then the dining room's doors opened again. A familiar face walked in: James Chin, Dad's biggest competitor. Sophie, he called out warmly. Just sign the merger papers. When do I start as Nova's real estate division head? Dad's legs finally gave out. His arch-rival of 20 years was now working for his daughter. James will be overseeing all real estate operations, I announced to the stunned room, including Morrison Real Estate's integration into Nova's portfolio. Victoria's husband, the junior partner, raised his hand nervously. And what about our jobs? Oh, you're all staying, I assured them. Though some changes will be needed. Victoria, your new office is on the 3rd floor. The view isn't quite what you're used to, but it matches your actual performance metrics. My sister's face flushed red. 3rd floor? But I'm senior vice president. We're senior vice president, I corrected. Nova doesn't do courtesy titles. You'll need to earn your positions now. The screens shifted again, showing live feeds from Nova facilities worldwide. Tech campuses, logistics centers, research labs, all bearing my company's logo. Ms. Morrison, my assistant interrupted. Mr. Gates is holding on line 2 about the tech integration. Bill Gates. Mom squeaked. No, I smiled, echoing her years of condescension. Melinda. We're collaborating on global e-commerce accessibility initiatives. Dad was still staring at the screens, watching his life's work being absorbed into my empire. All this time, while we thought you were struggling. Struggling. I laughed softly. Dad, I made more in the past hour than Morrison Real Estate made in its entire 60-year history. But the real shock was still to come. Because what they didn't know was that Nova Enterprises was just the public face of my true empire. The birthday party had transformed into what the media would later call the Nova Revolution. As waiters cleared away the fallen cake, My executive team was already implementing changes that would reshape not just my family's company, but the entire global e-commerce landscape. Sophie, Dad tried again, his voice barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell us? Tell you. I turned to face him. Like when I tried to explain my business model last Christmas and you said I was playing shop online? Or when I attempted to discuss my expansion plans at Easter, and Victoria said I should get a real job like grown-ups. The screens now displayed a world map dotted with Nova's holdings, each light representing a company, platform or facility under my control. Ms. Morrison, CFO approached again. The Space Commerce Division needs your approval for the lunar retail platform. Space Commerce. Victoria's husband stammered. Yes, I nodded. Those silly internet games you mocked? They're now powering humanity's first orbital shopping network. NASA's astronauts use our platform exclusively. Mom collapsed into a chair, her social standing crumbling as she realized her embarrassing daughter was now the talk of every circle she tried so hard to impress. But your apartment? She managed. That small downtown flat. You mean my test facility? I smiled. The entire building is a Nova Research Center. My real home. I gestured to the window where a sleek skyscraper dominated the skyline. I own the top 10 floors of Nova Tower, along with every other major building you can see from here. The room's attention was drawn to movement outside, helicopters approaching the tower, their sides bearing the Nova logo. Your private fleet? James Chin asked admiringly. Just a small part of our logistics division, I replied. Speaking of which, I turned to my CFO. Show them the real numbers. The screens filled with financial data that made even seasoned business people gasp. Nova wasn't just an e-commerce company. It was a technological juggernaut that had secretly reshaped the global economy. Every time you shop online, I explained to the stunned room, there's an 80% chance you're using a Nova platform. Those little websites Dad mocked? They process more transactions in a minute than the entire Canadian banking system handles in a month. Victoria, trying to salvage something, spoke up, but surely our real estate expertise is obsolete. I cut her off gently. Nova's AI can predict market trends 6 months in advance. We're not just selling properties anymore, we're revolutionizing how people live. As if on cue, the screens showed Nova's latest project, self-sustaining smart cities, complete with integrated e-commerce systems that made traditional retail obsolete. Ms. Morrison, another executive, rushed in. The Chinese government accepted our terms. We're now the exclusive e-commerce provider for their entire market. Dad's birthday watch suddenly looked very small compared to the empire his small-time daughter had built. Oh, and Dad, I added, watching him flinch. That retirement fund you're so proud of? Check who manages it now. He pulled out his phone with trembling hands. The Nova logo appeared on his banking app. You control my retirement? I control everyone's retirement, I corrected. Nova's financial division manages 40% of global pension funds, including all of Morrison Real Estate's accounts. The final blow came when my assistant projected one last set of numbers, my personal net worth versus the combined value of every company in Vancouver. That's more than. Mom couldn't finish the sentence. More than you ever imagined your shopkeeper daughter would be worth? I finished for her. Yes, quite a bit more. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their small business daughter was now the most powerful person in the room, in the city, perhaps in the entire country. Happy birthday, Dad, I said softly. Consider this my gift, a front row seat to the future of global commerce. Your office may be gone, but you've got something better now. A chance to see what your tiny shop daughter really built while you were all laughing at her dreams. As if to punctuate my words, the night sky lit up with Nova's logo being projected onto clouds, a technology we developed for global marketing. Now, I turned to address the room, shall we continue with the party? After all, it's not every day a father gets to celebrate his birthday by becoming an employee in his daughter's trillion-dollar empire. The cake might have been ruined, but something far sweeter was being served. The taste of success that no one in my family had seen coming. And as the night continued, with global markets buzzing about Nova's rise and my family trying to process their new reality, I couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the smallest shops hide the biggest empires. And mine was just getting started. The aftermath of my revelation continued to unfold throughout the evening. The birthday party guests, Vancouver's elite who had come to celebrate Dad's success, were now awkwardly trying to curry favor with the city's actual most powerful person. Ms. Morrison, my CFO, interrupted again. The European Union's Commerce Commissioner is requesting an emergency meeting. Our acquisition of their largest online marketplace is causing quite a stir. Tell them I'll be in Brussels tomorrow, I replied, watching Dad's face fall further. Tomorrow was supposed to be his big family brunch, another celebration of his now diminished achievements. Victoria, still processing her demotion, tried one last time to assert herself. But what about your experience? You've never run a reel. The words died in her throat as the screens displayed my resume. Degrees from MIT and Stanford, silent partnerships in 30 successful tech startups, and a list of innovations that had revolutionized global commerce. That coding bootcamp you mocked last year? I smiled. It was my company. I own the entire educational technology sector now. In fact, I turned to her husband. Your law degree? Check who owns your alma mater. He pulled out his phone, his face draining of color as he saw the Nova logo on his university's website. By God, he whispered. You own the universities too? Education is the future, I shrugged. Just like those worthless internet points Mom laughed at, the cryptocurrency division that just bought 3 central banks? Mom's pearl necklace suddenly looked very costume-like compared to the quiet wealth I commanded. Speaking of banks, my CFO interjected. The Federal Reserve Chair is on line 3. Something about our new digital currency platform. Dad, who had spent years bragging about his golf games with bank presidents, watched as his daughter casually discussed global monetary policy with the Fed. Ms. Morrison, another executive, approached. The Mars Colony Commerce Hub is online. Shall we launch the first interplanetary transaction? The room fell silent again. My little online shop wasn't just dominating Earth's commerce. It was expanding to other planets. Do it, I nodded. Let's show them what the future of shopping really looks like. The screens displayed a historic moment. The first ever retail transaction between Earth and Mars, processed through Nova's systems.